Hello, hockey fans. This is episode 80 of the Clappercast. On today's episode, we had a special guest, Ryan Hawk from the Hawkey Talk podcast. Sean, this was a really great episode, and I was really happy with the conversation we had.
Yeah, Ryan's always great to have on, and real easy to talk to, knowledgeable about the game, and he's branched off on his own here and started his own little podcast, and he's getting some amazing guests early on in his podcast life here. Started out first episode with Kelly Rudy. He's had Sammy Joe Small. He just had Andy Sutton right away here as well. He's got Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup, coming on. So, a lot of big names in the hockey industry, and it's always a great time to talk with him.
So let's dive into the interview. Ryan, welcome back to the show. Friend of the show. So it's always nice to have you back. Last time we spoke, you were working with a different crew, but since then you've pulled Justin Timberlake and started a solo career. So tell us about that. How's the solo podcasting game been so far?
Difficult, guys. I mean, you know what it's like. You guys, I went from having an editor and somebody to help out the social media. Now I'm doing everything. I'm truly a Justin Timberlake. I guess that's how to put it. I'm like Beyonce. I started off in a group and left, and now I got to do it all. But it's been a lot of fun, and just having a platform, obviously, and still being in touch with all the people I met over when I was with the Hockey Minute. It's been a lot of fun.
Right on. We actually don't know what that's like because we've always been a duo, and we don't know what it's like to run it all on your own. So we're happy about that.
Don't do
it. It seems like a lot of work, and I know that sometimes it just seems like enough being a part of a duo, and so I don't know how you do that all on one. And kudos to you. It seems like it's going really well so far. You've had some great guests.
Ryan, you had mentioned being able to bring some of the network and the connections you made over into your solo show. What's it been like starting to build that network in hockey circles? I mean, you've had amazing guests. Like, you started your solo show with Kelly Rudy. You've had Sammy Joe Small. You've had Andy Sutton. And I think tomorrow you've got Phil Pritchard, keeper of the cup.
Yeah.
What's it been like to build that network and establish yourself in the industry?
Oh, I don't know if I'm establishing myself in the industry, but you know what? It's actually Carolyn Cameron, of all people. I talked to her this morning, and she said networking is everything. Like, with her, that's how she got started. She was on Sportsnet at 22 years old, right? Which to me seemed kind of young, but she said she just hustled, and I think for anyone who's got a podcast and is trying to get guests on, it's just follow the breadcrumbs, because with Kelly, he basically put me in touch with someone at Sportsnet to kind of green light me and say, this guy's not going to be weird if you give out your phone number to him. He's not going to be trying to FaceTime you, during the game or something like that. And I think with some of the guys on, David Ling, for instance, was a guest I had. He played pro hockey for 25 years, and I just kind of sent him a message and said, hey, is there anyone that you think I should reach out to? So he said, he's going to get back to me, and I don't want to throw out names because I don't know if it'll happen, but a couple of the names he threw back at me about guys that he might be able to help me with, I was like, okay, that would be pretty legit. So I think it's just, you got to be able to just network, and that's not really hard. I think a lot of people nowadays too, especially if you get the older players on, they love, Kelly, he said to me off air, he's like, they love to talk about the old days. That's, Bernie Nichols, same thing, right? You bring up a 70-goal season in the NHL, well, he's going to want to talk about that. So it's, it's been a lot of fun though. And it's I don't know. I don't think there's any secret sauce to it. I think you just got to network. And for all the people that, you mentioned, Sean, I've had, I think 8 episodes have come out, or the 8th one will come out tomorrow. But of those 8 people, there was also 30 people that left me on red. So it's kind of whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I think I said this the last time that we had you on, but shooters shoot, right? And
exactly.
You got to get that shooting percentage. Sometimes it's going to be really good, and sometimes it's not going to be the greatest. But you still got to keep shooting, and trying to get people on.
Yeah, right now I'm shooting at like an Austin Matthews clip, but I'm sure soon I'll be shooting at a Louis Erickson clip. It's just the way it goes.
Is
Well-
this sustainable is the real question.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hopefully you're never healthy scratched from your own show. Like Louis.
We're just
Yeah, I
gonna
know.
get like an hour-long segment of a chair with a microphone.
Yeah.
You've gotten to talk to some NHL players, some former NHL players. Is there anything that surprised you about their lives, their careers, or the lifestyle that they've had that you've been able to learn about them?
I think the biggest thing that I find fascinating is just what they're up to these days, right? Like, Andy Sutton bought a hockey company basically, and made himself CEO and kind of took over. He's got big plans for that. Sammy Jo Small just has, she's got a podcast now, released a book. Some of the people I've talked to, like, it's interesting because like in pro sports, you always, like, unless you're like Wayne Gretzky who gets paid just to kind of show up, guys sometimes they have to figure things out. I mean, especially the players that played in the 80s and stuff where they didn't really make what guys make now. So I do find it interesting. David Ling, he played 25 years pro, but it wasn't all in the NHL. So for him to find out that now he's a financial planner and he wants to work with athletes. And it was funny, we did that interview right around the time Evander Kane got, sued for like $26 million.
Right.
That was one of the things that we ended up just kind of chatting about, just again, keeping in touch. And, so I like to hear what they're up to now. And I think it just gives hope to, I mean, not that I ever made the NHL, but it's like, these guys do have real life stuff that comes up, and they do always have to plan to, once you're 35 retiring from the NHL, it's like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life, right? Even if you had the money, you can't just sit there and do nothing for 50 plus years. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like how many just every like average people, like they go through massive career trajectory shifts, right? And it's a similar thing where it's like, hockey is ultimately their job, their career, and eventually they're going to have to transition into something else. Whether it's related to hockey or not is another question. But yeah, that's interesting to kind of see where they were, and like we saw them on TV, watching them, give their interviews, highlights on sports shows, and then you see them, like you talked about Andy Sutton, he's now running a hockey company, and that's like a really cool transition into like a similar but different type of job, different lifestyle.
Yeah, and I mean, for some of these guys too, they're very well educated too. Like Sutton played university hockey, University of Michigan Tech. Like he played 4 years there, so he already had kind of an engineering degree. Trying to think of who else. Like Sean Bell was my second guest. Sean, same thing, right? Like first round pick. Career maybe didn't go the way that he anticipated, but he left there and got a job at a sports agency, and now he's kind of helping out some of these guys transition from pro hockey to whatever they're up to next. And and again, that to me is very admirable because he went through it, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then just, not that I'm like best friends with these people, I don't even pretend to be, acquaintances with them, but for that brief hour, just to kind of get to know them a little bit is kind of funny. Like, it's the conversations that you have off the air that are kind of like, that's when you really get to know those people.
Right.
and
Yeah.
and in some cases it's just like, damn, like, this person's hilarious, or the way that they see the world, and especially with all the stuff that's happened in the last 12 months too. It's like, it's interesting to get their thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's like back in the day, guys used to have an off-season job, like way back in the day, right? Like guys.
Richard worked at like a metal plant or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil Pionk sees the way of the future. That's why he got his business degree. He's planning already for his post hockey career. And it's like, yeah, they're the guys who have like a full career in the NHL are only like in their like early mid 30s,
Right.
usually. So it's like, yeah, like you said, you got like 50 years. You can't just sit around, or maybe you could, but
Man, I used to think like Joe Sakic was my idol growing up, and then when he retired and took a couple of years off and then came back to work for the Avalanche, like I remember thinking, you made like $100 million in your career. Well, like you couldn't motivate me to get off the couch with $100 million in the bank, right? Like I'd be like, no, I'm sleeping in every day doing whatever I want. But then as I get older now, like I'm turning 30 in a few weeks, and I kind of get it, because I would think, yeah, if I was 35 and I had that kind of money and like blew off my hand in a snowblower accident, what would I do with my life? And it's like, yeah, you know, if Colorado says, hey, we want you to be GM, like, of course I'm going to take that job. Whether I, you know, succeed in it is a different story, but it gives you that purpose to wake up and hit the ground running. So
Yeah, and those guys are so competitive. It's another way to stay in there, right? And another way to win after your playing days. And they probably miss that locker room kind of
that, and like the hockey lifestyle, because it's like it's a full commitment, like in terms of how much time you dedicate to your career. So it's just, they're used to that lifestyle, they're used to that amount of commitment into something. So to transition into management for Sakic specifically, it's just like he's used to that level of time commitment and that environment, so it just works.
Yeah, Sakic saw Yzerman running Tampa. He's like, no. No, we battled in the 90s. We'll battle in the 2010s here. Let's go.
Yeah, this rivalry isn't dead.
Can't wait for the Colorado Detroit final.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait a few years for Detroit to get there. That rivalry was insane. I remember growing up as a kid and just loving it. It's so awesome. I was a huge Forsberg fan, and just watching those battles were so much fun. Oh man, there's rivalries today, but they're just not quite the same as that bloodthirsty Detroit versus Colorado. It was so awesome. I was watching a video the other day of all these. It was called like the NHL's like loudest hits or something. And there's a bunch of clips of guys hitting guys and like breaking the glass and just shattering it. And I was just thinking, like, if that happened like now, I just don't think you'd have that Don Cherry, rock'em sock'em type thing. Like, it would be like the guy would be down and out. It just wouldn't be as popular as it was. Like, it was just such a cool moment in the past, but now I don't think it would get quite the same level of appreciation. Thinking about those days when I grew up and just got that nostalgia,
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think I saw that video too. I think it's like Jen's 95 or something like that. The YouTube channel. Yeah, great channel. But I agree with you. I was trying to think when you said about the Red Wings Avs, I'm like maybe Caps Pens, but it doesn't get like line brawls and everything like that. Like Battle of Alberta is kind of coming back,
that's probably the closest you get in today's NHL.
Yeah,
and even that was basically just last season. The first few this year haven't been quite as I don't know, energetic.
Yeah, Sean, did you tune in thinking like that first game is going to be just a war zone? Like, I tuned in thinking we're going to see line brawls every period, and it was like nothing.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot, but everyone was pretty tame. It hasn't gotten too heated yet this year, and I mean part of it's because Cassian's been out, but it hasn't really sparked up quite yet. So I think we got like 7 more matchups this year, so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, maybe by like the end of the season when they played each other a few times and they're really tired of each other, maybe then it will kind of pop off, But yeah, you're right. I tuned in there for the first game and just thought it was going to be a war zone, but no.
We'll see. Like, I think Edmonton makes the playoffs, no doubt now, but we'll see if Calgary, if they're still in it, and if they're out of it, I can see Matt Tkachuk and some of those guys on Calgary just trying to take out whoever they can on Edmonton and end the season on a bloody note.
Well, hopefully they make playoffs and then there's a playoff round against each other. Then we'd see it.
That would probably bring back the Battle of Alberta we've been waiting for through the season here so far to get that matchup in the playoffs. Yeah,
that's my best timeline is that we see a Battle of Alberta. We see something like Leafs Habs. Oh, that'd be great. Just all these all-time rivalries in the first round, just killing each other.
Well, it'd be cool too because we've got the different divisional alignment to get some of the matchups that you'd never get to see otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So speaking of the divisions, Sean and I were talking about how I guess Valentine's Day is kind of like the new U.S. Thanksgiving, at least for this season. And so just wanted to kind of quickly ask you here, now that we're, I don't know, what, a quarter or something into the season, or maybe more than that. Who do you think is going to be taking all these divisions?
I mean, I've only really been able to watch the North because that's all Sportsnet plays. Toronto, I think I hate to say it, but Toronto looks good, man. I mean, Edmonton's chasing them. Edmonton, I looked up the stats for the Oilers, and it's like McDavid and Draisaitl have like 40 points each, and then third on the team is Nugent Hopkins with 19. So I was like, all right, they're still kind of like a two-horse team here. Toronto looks good. I don't see anyone beating them. And then Washington's kind of clinging on to that division as well. I don't know what they call it, the East Division or something. Still clinging on to that one, but I think the Islanders and the Bruins are chasing them pretty closely. Outside of that, man, like, I don't know. It's hard to say this year. I had someone else ask me who my trophy picks were. I was like, it's impossible to really pick, right? Like, how do you justify, like, is McDavid the best player or the Hart Trophy guy this year? Like, I don't know. He doesn't play against some of those U.S. teams that have way better defense, and he's not putting up 5 points in a period against, a team like Vegas, for instance. So, yeah, I don't know. And I like I said, I don't really catch a lot of the U.S. games just because of the TV schedule.
Yeah, that's fair. Those divisions down south are, except for the one that the Capitals are it's really like, do you like one team or another team? Because it's Colorado or Vegas in the West, and then in the, I don't know, what are the other ones called?
Well, yeah, like
Tampa.
I'm looking at the Central. It's like Tampa and Florida are tied. Chicago somehow is 1 point behind those teams too.
As expected.
Yeah. And then like Minnesota, actually, they're second in the West Division behind Vegas. So I didn't see them really making a splash, but they are. And I mean, Vegas and St. Louis and Colorado are all doing really well in the West too. So I don't know. I mean, to me, there's not really many surprises outside of the Panthers and the Blackhawks in that division. Because, I mean, come on, be honest. Who had the Panthers? Like, they had like 7 fans. I saw actually that one. I was like watching one of the Panthers games when it was on NBC, and they had like everyone's social distance in the crowd. And like as expected, like all the tweets and stuff are just like, oh, typical day in Florida, typical Panthers game. So
yeah, they've got the standard amount of fans in attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very surprising that Florida is up there. I mean, with Bobrovsky playing not great, I mean, who would have thought that they'd be up there? And the Chicago one is just insane to me. I don't know how they're winning.
Kevin Lankinen.
Patrick Kane too. He's been playing
Kane.
Really well.
He's up there. He's in Hart Talks again this season. So I mean, get a couple of players running hot, and I mean, Chicago's got the experience and the veteran leadership to kind of guide that hot streak into something good.
It's pretty unreal though that they lost Taves for like the season. Sounds like they traded out Saad, which angered apparently all of the veterans on the team. They lost Crawford, who then retired before playing for the Devils. They traded out Leonard. Yeah, Kirby Doc got hurt. And then they've just got this like surplus of Swiss rookies that just light up the score sheet, and
this
rookie
entire
goalie
season is just done out of spite for them.
Yeah.
It's like, how you think we're gonna lose? Take this.
Yeah, it's insane. I had them at the bottom, but I guess it's just a little bit of meme magic that they're winning. I don't know if when it's gonna burst or if it will, but it's kind of fun to see where it goes, because I mean it's a really interesting story. Like, what's gonna happen to that team?
Yeah. I mean, from what I heard, it was like coming into the year, they were like, the team was kind of told expectations this year are not very high. Like, we're missing our captain, we're missing Doc now, like, you know, and apparently a lot of the young guys were like, well, okay, like, it's a learning year for us. And Patrick Kane apparently was like, no, like as long as I'm on this team and you know, like I still want to win, we're gonna go out every night, we're gonna battle. And I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, like we talk about the MVP this year, Matthews gets a lot of looks, McDavid gets a lot of looks. I think McKinnon just by default gets a lot of looks, but Patrick Kane is, it's kind of weird because I think Chicago the last few years haven't been great, and we all kind of forgot how good he is. And then like I didn't know he had 400 goals until he scored his 400th goal the other night. I was like, I had no idea. I thought he was a pure playmaker, but secretly he's had a couple sneaky, you know, 40 goal seasons. And so yeah, he's still in my top 5, I think, for skilled players in the league.
It's
Oh, yeah,
funny
puck control,
that
he's easily one of the best in the league. He's the grabbing the puck and just skating circles in the offensive zone is just a trademark Patrick Kane move.
yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that the team was saying, yeah, you know, expectations are low because they actually put out a memo saying that, you know, we're basically rebuilding. They like put that out there, and then yeah, Patty Kane's like, nope.
Not today, guys.
Yeah, screw
I
your
think
draft pick.
that's like the new thing teams do though. Like you remember the Rangers a couple of years ago, they put out that letter. It was like, you know, even when Tampa got swept by Columbus, they
Yeah,
had
we
like
know you don't
like
want.
the
We know you
depressed
don't want to hear
breakup
this.
letter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just turns into like a copy pasta on Reddit when people do something stupid. Just we know that you don't want to hear this. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty funny. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where it goes. I was ready to buy a Kubalik jersey last year because he basically won me my fantasy pool. So all these Swiss guys, I don't know where they're getting them, but I guess they're just kind of like Kane will be like, go there, you know, I'll pass you the puck, and then you take it from there. So it's exciting to see that Kane can play with like, you know, whoever and still rack them up. So very cool. Very cool. Kind of wanted to move on. You and I share a fandom for the Capitals. And earlier in the season, they kind of got in some hot water about COVID. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about that because we've seen like the league do worse things, I think, since then. And so, I mean, I kind of just biased my whole question there and let you know my opinion. But what did you think of the Capitals getting fined like $100K for the guys being in the room together, and then basically being made an example of by the league?
Yeah, it was dumb as hell. I like. There's no other way to put it. I thought it was embarrassing that like 4 guys hang out in the hotel. There's a picture of Ovechkin and Kuznetsov from me to this mic after they scored a goal. Like that's okay. I saw because of Texas having that storm, like apparently Jamie Benn had a bunch of guys living with him and stuff, which is that not the same thing? Like, I don't know.
It was
I don't think,
actually like his house, Klingberg's
yeah,
house, and Tyler Sagan's house.
yeah,
He's not even in Texas, but he opened it up to anybody in the team who was like, you know, had no power or something. And so, yeah.
yeah. I mean, and you're going to tell me that those guys have unreal ventilation systems that are matching what the NHL has set up? Like, no, they probably don't.
Masks on.
Yeah, right. Like, I think the whole thing, it is obviously, I think, more so just theater more than anything. Because to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like today, I went for lunch by myself, and I'm sitting there in Wings, sick place, and there's people all around me, no masks. Like we're all eating and everything, and it's like we're all breathing the same air, and it's no different in the NHL when those guys get in the locker room. Like I don't understand why the Capitals were singled out, and I think it had to be 4 Russians too. It couldn't be 4 Canadian guys that like people just whatever. It was like the meme of the Russians, but I don't know. I saw Ovechkin. What do you think about Ovechkin's wife putting out that statement? Like he's already got the antibodies. I was like, oh, so you're telling me he didn't give a shit over the summer then?
Yeah. Well, Sean, I didn't actually see this, but Sean, you said that there was like Sportsnet or something. We're really going after his wife about what she said.
Yeah.
Like they brought it up and they're just like talking shit about her. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, guys. Like
they had a segment about that post, and then they were kind of talking shit about his wife getting involved in the situation, and like
How
The
dare his wife, who's married to him and has like raised his children with him, get involved in like his personal life? How dare she?
it's kind of a weird segment for them to have on there, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, but she made a good point though. I thought of just like sounds like him and Orlov apparently like had the antibodies, which means that they've caught it at some point. I mean, like we're 12 months into this, and this isn't like the type of podcast or the platform to really go into the COVID stuff. But I mean, like everybody that I know that's had it, like once you've had it, I think that's all you really like. That's all you need, right? Like you build up the antibodies. I think for the NHL, I know a lot of it is just the theater of the whole thing. They have to show like coaches, like the playoffs. It was funny, like coaches didn't wear masks, but like the stick guy did, the athletic trainers did. Now they've got it where everyone on the bench wears a mask. I think they lowered the glass as well a little bit to
Yeah, they took the
increase
glass away
ventilation.
from the benches behind it.
Yeah, so I
And
mean,
in the
I don't
locker
know.
room. Like,
Yeah, right. It's like these guys shower together after, like they got plexiglass between each shower stall. Like I don't know. But even I think it sucks for the players too, because I saw Winnipeg, Andrew Kopp had said that they were told you can't show up or you can't show up more than 90 minutes before game time, and some of the players were kind of upset about that because they need that time to get in there, maybe get ride the bike, get a massage or whatever, get ready for the game, and they're being told now you can't do that. So I don't know, man. It's frustrating, and of course it had to happen to our team in Washington, and the best goal scorer of all time had to miss some time, unfortunately.
yeah, another few games lost, which you won't get back. But yeah, I mean the antibodies thing, like Ovechkin and Orlov were the first guys back out of all four of them. Samsonov was the guy who had COVID, and he has just come back. But he said he was feeling it pretty hard. I don't know what's going on with Kuzi, but yeah, it's
Kuzi just kind of sucks now. Like I hate to say it, but he had that unreal playoffs, and then I don't know. It bothers me that he really dropped off.
Yeah, I remember that season that he came in. It was kind of funny because I actually went to Hawaii with my parents, and it was right during the first round against the Islanders, and I was like, "There's no way I'm not watching these games, even though I'm in Hawaii." And I watched the game where he just kind of like got the puck at the half boards and just kind of like walked into the middle of the ice and just like clapped a bomb or something and scored. And I was like, this kid's unreal. Like this kid feeding Ovi. Yeah. And then he's had a couple good years, but he's I don't know. He's not quite as hasn't really developed as well as we'd like, but he's still a hell of a player. But yeah, he's definitely kind of in and out of the lineup. And we got top line center Lars Eller so far, which is a weird look.
Yeah,
but it's okay because we got top sniper Nicholas Backstrom.
that's right.
Who, in his own words, basically says, "I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know how I'm leading this team in goals."
What I say to you yesterday, Burke, is like, I am the Ovechkin now.
Yeah. Like, who needs OV? We've got Nikki, who's ready there to snipe. All right, yeah. The COVID thing was I thought it was kind of dumb considering the NHL really goofed and let some games happen when they shouldn't have, like with Buffalo, New Jersey, and they didn't really talk about that. They didn't find each other. They didn't find the safety guy or anything like that, even though Buffalo was apparently pretty upset about it. So it's just kind of you make an example of one team, but then the league does something that actually puts people in danger, which is crazy. But Sean, this podcast is now Capitals podcast. So I kind of wanted to get your I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on a few of the guys for the Caps, and I wanted to start with Vitek Vanacek. And what have you thought of him filling in while Samsonov was hurt or out with COVID?
You know what? I thought he's held his own I still don't think that he should be like the employee of the future by any stretch. But I think that for Vanacek though, like he stepped in. The couple games I did see, because like I say, whenever they played Pittsburgh, that game was on. He looked okay. I think it's just, to be honest with you, I was on the John Carlson Norris train last year.
Oh yeah.
And the more I watch him play, the more I'm like, no, like he's a very good offensive player, but defensively he's not the greatest, and he plays like 25 minutes a night. But Vanacek's good. I'm happy to hear Samsonov. Like I think he did a conditioning stint, and after that though, like I think he's back in the lineup, isn't he?
Yeah, he played against the Devils and got a win. That was his first game back. So yeah, Vitek kind of definitely came up to the call, rose to the occasion to play. He was playing like every game, and they started Anderson like twice while Sammy was out. But he's done really good. He's definitely a little scrambly, and definitely not ready for the full-time gig, but he did admirably. And then the other guy that I wanted to ask you about was Big Z, about Chara. What do you think about him on the blue line so far?
He's done okay, man. Like I didn't think he was going to be, anything special, and I don't think he really is. I think he's done a good job though of just being Chara though. Yeah, I think he's just like Thornton though. Like I think he's just great for that locker room more than anything. And he's still, I wish he played like with a bit of a snarl still. He seems like he's a little more reserved, but that could also be because he's like 43 years old, and we just, he one wrong hit or one wrong fight. And I mean, he saw, like, was it last year or the year before, that guy on Nashville ended up buckling him, and that's kind of when
Trennan, I think.
And like that's kind of when like, all right, you can't be doing this too much longer. And but he still has that cannon of a shot, and I don't really think there's anyone on the Caps blue line that's got like a cannon. I think most of them, it's just well placed wrist shots, but Chara can still hit the puck.
Yeah, did you see the team's reaction when he scored?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that warmed my heart. And you mentioned that he's good for the locker room, and you just saw that in that team celebration when he just got like enveloped by the bench when he scored, and just how happy they were. It's like, it was like their dad scored a goal or something, right? They're just so happy.
Yeah,
it's so great. And he's definitely not playing with like that edge that he used to be known for, but he's kind of like floats some passes across and stuff, and he's just not quite as on the ball as he used to be. But with limited minutes, he's a good locker room guy. He's a good presence. He's a veteran leader, and he's been pretty good. You can't expect anything crazy out of a 40-plus-year-old guy, but but he's been good. Sean, is there anything else that you wanted to ask Ryan? I've got my little quick fire questions to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, so I just had one quick question about the Caps there too. We saw the last couple of seasons they had struggled under Todd Reirden, their last coach, a couple of less than inspirational performances in the playoffs. So they bring in a more intense guy in Peter Laviolette. What are your thoughts on the team's performance under him? How anything's changed in their game? Anything that's been looking much better, much different under Laviolette compared to Reirden?
I think they just, from what I've seen, they just look more lively. There's a little more urgency to them. And I think last time I was on your guys' show, we talked about, Burke and I talked about it, like they're technically still kind of in their window, right? Like Backstrom, Ovechkin. It's not like those guys are kind of useless anymore. Verana and Wilson are coming up, and I think like they can still make some noise. I think it's just that Reirden didn't inspire anybody, to do anything. And he's probably more suited to be an assistant coach. And Laviolette, meanwhile, is, as we talked about, I think last time I was on here, his MO is get to the finals in year one, and then he'll burn you out in the next 2 years, and then he moves on to the next team. And in that sense, I think he's been really good for the Caps because, him and Chara combined, it's like, that's a lot of, it's a couple Stanley Cup championships and guys that have lost in the finals too. I mean, Laviolette lost with Philly and with Nashville, and Charles lost a couple of Stanley Cups along the way. And I don't know, it just seems like the team is just playing with more urgency and a lot more intensity. And I'm sure you guys have seen the meme of Laviolette just punching that guy on Philly's head,
playing the body,
bang the body, right? So like it's like I mean, I wish what they did with everything going on. I really wish that they had just kind of done that HBO style thing where you got mics on like the benches and in the locker room and stuff. I'd love to hear what Laviolette's like now. I mean, especially with the way that coaches came under fire the last year and a bit. I don't think he ever crossed a line, but I'd love to hear what he's like in the dressing room, because I feel like watching TJ Oshie the other night with that sweet goal that he scored and everything. I'm like, I don't think Reardon is the kind of guy that stokes that kind of intensity and that passion and that will to just finish the play. And I think Laviolette's done a great job.
Yeah, that Oshie goal is a really great example of that type of urgency and that passion, dedication for the play, finish the play and stuff. That's a really good play for that example.
Yeah, there's like the old stupid phrase, but it's like I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. And I think Laviolette is kind of that kind of coach, where he fires up the boys. Reardon, like, come on. like even Bruce Boudreau is that kind of guy. Like you run through a wall for that. For someone called him Barbecue Bruce on Reddit the other day, and I absolutely loved it. But he gets fired up. He was on that HBO when they had that series against the Pens or whatever, the outdoor classic, like Road to the Outdoor Classic, and he was talking about Haagen-Dazs ice cream and stuff. And he was just like a good guy. But Reardon, you could just like if Oshie scored that goal when Reardon was coach, he probably would have went to the bench and Reardon would have just looked at him.
Like confused. Like you think about like laid back coaches on the bench, right? I mean, John Cooper in Tampa seems like he's pretty calm on the bench most of the time. Like, Jared Bednar in Colorado seems pretty laid back on the bench, but it's like they still get the best out of their guys. And Todd Reardon was laid back, but he almost looked like he was in too deep. And I don't know if it's maybe because they won the cup and then Barry Trotz moved on right away. And he came in with all this pressure, like, oh, okay, we got to go back to back, or maybe that is part of it. But 2 straight first round exits, it was kind of like, why did we let Trotz go? And then you see how the Islanders are doing. It's just like that's the real kick in the nads, and I think that's a message for most teams. Like, you may not want your guy, like your head coach, you may not really want him. Like if Tortorella, I think, is worn out his welcome in Columbus, but if they win the cup this year, which I mean, I'll give you the number of my dealer that gave me that thought. But if they win this, like let's say they made a deep playoff run and possibly made it to the Stanley Cup final, like the ownership group can't really get rid of that guy now. He figured out a way to tap in and get everybody on board.
He bought himself a year. Yeah. I think Laviolette's been good so far too. The team's starting to get it, and they're starting to play some better hockey. And they've had a lot of adversity so far this season, which is something that the Caps need. I think they always kind of float through the regular season, and so having a bit more adversity before they get to playoffs is always good for that team. Like that was 2018, right? They struggled at times, and then Holtby didn't even start in playoffs, and so that was something that they needed. So hoping that they can, bring back the magic and to get in there, combined with Laviolette's track record of getting to the finals. So hopefully that happens. Okay, so I just got some quick questions here to wrap up. So the first one is, do you think Virtanen gets traded this season?
Yeah, I do. Like I saw the other day, apparently the rumor is he's going to Anaheim for Danton Heinen. Whether or not that happens, I think the whole quarantine stuff. I mean, granted, it's not like you're trading Dubois for Laine, and you need those guys right away. Virtanen, if he goes to Anaheim, they can sit him there for 14 days or whatever it is in the States, no problem. Up here, obviously, Heinen would have to sit for 2 weeks. Unless I think there's some kind of loophole. If you fly private, then you're probably good.
I don't know. Horgan's a pretty big fan of the Canucks, so maybe he'd give him a bit of a break.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool. Like Heinen, sorry, he's from like Fort Langley apparently. So it'd be interesting to see him. I mean, you're swapping one hometown guy for another, but regardless, I think Virtanen, like he's worn it out, man. I mean, you think about, he was drafted 2014, so 7 years ago, and what has he shown? And I think and I'm not even like a Canuck fan really, so like I have no problem trashing them. I wanted him to succeed because he's big, he skates really well, he's got a heavy shot. It's just that he skates well, but not like smart. And he shoots the puck either 10 feet over the net or into the goalie's logo, and his hockey IQ just isn't there. He's a really weird player to watch because he's got all these tools, it's just no toolbox. So I think he'll be traded for sure. And I actually thought if we're going Canadian, I thought he might move over to Edmonton, and then Edmonton might have to send back. I don't know who they'd send back, but a bottom six guy.
Sean, well, how would you feel with Virtanen on the team?
I would not be a fan of that trade. I mean, this is a guy who's spent, like you said, five seasons kind of like not making the Canucks lineup. And, does he really, how many more chances does he really need to get? At like what point do you just kind of say, well, you're not going to get it and get buried in the AHL or something?
I was watching the Canucks game, or parts of it, I don't know, maybe like last week or something. And they were talking about how Virtanen was saying that it's harder to hit guys now than when he came into the league. And I was just sitting there like, what in the like, how does it get harder to hit guys? Like it is what it is. Like I could see if you're playing against like McDavid or something, like, yeah, that guy's hard to hit. He's slippery. But like you're going in on the forecheck to like hit a defenseman playing a puck. Like, I don't know. I feel like I haven't played contact hockey in like, I don't know, 8 years or something, but like I think I could probably lace him up and go throw a hit. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was a weird, really strange quote from a guy like who was known for playing the body. And like, if you watch his junior highlights, he just fucking flies into guys and like tears into them. And it's I don't understand that. It's harder to hit guys now. It's really
one
weird.
of those guys that he kind of got by in junior on his size, and then he gets to the NHL where everyone's kind of closer to his size and everyone's also faster, and you just can't really catch up to the game.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's still weird. Like he is fast. Like that's the thing, but it's just he was 6th overall pick for a reason. But still, it's amazing because I remember obviously when he was drafted, and it was like this local kid, like, oh, he's it's going to be just unbelievable. It's going to be like Cam Neely 2.0. And it was like he didn't really. I mean, I think a couple of years ago he had like 18 goals, so people thought, oh, he's finally hitting his stride, and it just seems like he's regressed. And it's like like I said, it's more just hockey IQ. I think when I watch him, like some guys are not as quick as him. Like they're not as quick, they're not as big. I'm thinking of a guy like Tyler Mott, for instance, who fills out that bottom 6 in Vancouver. But like Mott can read a play. He knows how to get in shooting lanes. He knows how to get in passing lanes. Like he knows how to angle off guys on the forecheck. And that's why Mott deserves to stick. And Virtanen is just sort of
also a guy like Höglander, and like Höglander's surprisingly decent at playing the body as well. And he's kind of got more skills that are usable during the game.
What about in 6 years though? It might be a lot harder to hit.
We'll have to watch out for that.
And just because I like Tyler Mott a lot, except for when he slew foots his own guys. He's valuable because he plays PK too, right? Virtanen is just horseshit in his own zone, to put it bluntly. Like he's just really bad in his own zone, and so if he's playing bottom 6 minutes and you can't PK, you're just worthless. Like it's just not a good place to be in. The next one I got here is, do you think Matthews gets 50 goals?
Yeah, I do. I hate to say it. I hate giving anything. You know what, man? Toronto, like, I had 2 interviews today with people from Toronto, and it killed me inside to have to say anything nice about the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yet, not only do I think he's going to get 50, but he also looks like he might be a Selke candidate, the way that he's been stick checking his defensive game. You talk about a guy who's 6'3" and doesn't hit, but it's like he doesn't need to, because he's either got the puck or he's got that. He's really, like, his hand-eye is incredible too. So I hate to praise him, but I think that generational air intake is really helping him. I think he'll hit 50, and I think he'll do it in like right down to the wire because he's missed a couple games in a shortened season. But it wouldn't shock me, if he hit 50.
That is barring the status of his hand and or wrist, though.
Yeah.
That could complicate matters.
The big cactus. Getting 50. Yeah, he's got a good shot at it, but he's hopefully plays in their next game.
I think a bigger question is, will McDavid hit 100 points? Because he's already got 40, and we're a third of the way in. It's like he could do it.
He could. I think he's on pace for around that, and the team.
And they play Ottawa like 3 more times.
Yeah, that's the key. It's number of Ottawa games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does Matthews. I think they probably play a few more times too, eh? Hopefully he's in those games. He started his career getting 4 against them. So maybe he can do that again a couple times. I got 2 more here, and then we'll let you go. But my second to last one here is this is not evaluation of the trade. It's just who would you want, Dubois or Laine?
Oh, I mean, on the one hand, you got a guy that probably could score 50 goals, and on the other hand, you got a top 6 centerman. I mean, maybe I'm biased because like my favorite player growing up was Ovechkin, and I was a winger that liked to score goals. Like I do like if you can get a 50 goal scorer on your team, I think that's got to be your guy. So I'm probably going to lean Laine on this one.
Yeah. He's a generational scorer, and he makes all the moms come to the arena. So you got to go with the goal scorer. Sells tickets, right? I like Dubois so far on the Jets, though. I mean, they put him on the wing, and it's just been working, getting in the forecheck, and his shifts are a bit more. He's got a bit more effort on them than when he was in Columbus. So we'll see if that wears off, or if he's really, buying into what Pomo has to say. But they're kind of both performing well with their teams. So
yeah.
And then the last one I got for you is out of all the reverse retro jerseys, which one is your favorite so far?
I mean, there's some that they look really good. The Capitals one obviously looks good. Coyotes looks good. I like the Rangers one too, but this one's like pretty polarizing, I found. But I like the Ducks one. I like the cartoon duck. It looks like a street hockey jersey, and I've said this to people, and they either hate it or they think it belongs in like the next Disney movie. So I mean, I want to get my hands on a Capitals one, but I'll go Ducks for the sake of the question.
Yeah, Sean, I'm going to ask you the same question because we've got an opportunity to see most of these on the ice so far. So you're wearing one right now.
Yeah, I'm literally wearing my Oilers reverse retro jersey right now. So that's obviously up there. I'm thinking I really like Colorado's getup. I think they've got that Nordiques throwback, and I think the coloring is just really, really cool on those. I like the Capitals as well. I'm on board with those ones. The bringing back the old logos there, or the different color scheme.
I like Calgary. The Sharks. Calgary's is good.
Yeah, that's oh man, Calgary's brought me back to like NHL 2003, like Jerome McGinley. That was just an absolute hit of nostalgia with those jerseys.
I had one of those as a kid. It was Blasty the horse. It's always had a special place in my heart. But yeah, I like the Sharks one, just like that. It's like literally their old jersey, but I love that jersey.
Yeah. I think the LA Kings one too is like that. It's just kind of like a vintage setup, but they just made it look more modern. But you mentioned the Avs one, and I like them and the Hurricanes. I wasn't too sure I liked that they took 2 relocated logos and like made it their own. And I don't know. I don't mind the color scheme for the Avs, but I was like, man, to take a team that was 1 year away from winning a Stanley Cup and you relocated them.
I get that. The reopen the old wound thing. I get that. In terms of appearance, it looks okay. But yeah, I get the morality behind that one.
Well, I was gonna say that I do like the Avs, what they've done though with the blue helmets and everything with their current jerseys. I think it looks pretty good. Better than that Vegas, C3PO helmet that they got
I
rocking
was
in,
just gonna say, what are your thoughts
the
on the
desert.
Vegas gold helmets?
Dude, I saw that and I was like, oh, my eyes. Getting the glare off the lights into my screen.
Gotta wear sunglasses to watch the game.
Yeah, but like only Vegas can pull it off. Like it was kind of like I saw that. I'm like, yeah, if that was I don't know, another team with a similar color scheme, but like any other team in any other city tries to pull that off, it's not working, right? But it's Vegas, so you just kind of go like, okay. Like it wouldn't shock me if they try some other crazy, shtick where it's like maybe the players do skate out with like legit swords for pre-workout or for pre-game skate or something like that. Like, but yeah, I didn't really like it though.
I had one follow-up question to this favorite reverse retro, and I'm curious if you were as annoyed as I was that Vegas got one at all.
Yeah, well, I thought it was weird. They're like, I was like, you've been around for 3 years. Like, what do you mean you got a retro jersey? Like, you've never worn that ever. Like the Canucks one too. Like, I'm like, all right. So I remember they had that kind of was burgundy, and then they just switched the burgundy to green for the retro one. Like every team kind of had their own little throwback, right? Like the Rangers one with the Statue of Liberty and stuff. Like, yeah, Vegas.
Same jersey.
Yeah, like Vegas. I was like, this is so like. I don't know, man. I shouldn't say I didn't like it. I just didn't understand where they were coming from because they came out with a third jersey as well, and then like took part in this reverse retro, and I was just like, "What are you guys doing? Like, you're too young to have a retro jersey. Like, can you imagine if in year one Seattle's like, oh yeah, we also have a reverse retro to join the club? Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah,
at least that one they could go with like a Seattle Metropolitans thing. Like from the olden days.
That's true. And I know Vegas did have an East Coast League team like 15 years ago. Like, I guess now that I think about it, maybe they should have looked at the Wranglers and tried to do something with that. Cause I think that was what kind of put Vegas on the hockey map, so to speak. So maybe they could have done something like that and maybe they will in the future. But as far as them just kind of like joining everyone and, releasing their Instagram posts, I was like, you guys don't. No, ever since 2018, I've hated Vegas. I was so happy to see them get a team. And then after that whole thing in 2018 and Ryan Reeves, talking about how he's just like Tom Wilson. I'm like, no, you're not, Revo. Shut up.
Lions in the jungle. I was telling Sean that they should have put Stanley Cup final losers on their normal jersey and then just call that a retro throwback.
Yeah. They put up a banner like year one. It's like second place. Like, or Stanley Cup finalists. Kind of new to the whole banner thing in Vegas.
Yeah, they're constantly annoying me and every Capitals fan, I think, since we had to face them and fight against the storyline of the expansion team winning in year one. It's like, no, this is a team that has fought and cried and bled for decades. Like, it's ours, not yours.
And I can tell you, if they lost in 2018, I wouldn't be here because I would have stopped watching hockey altogether. I think if Vegas won in year one, but now I think they just annoy me now because they get they get Pietrangelo, they got Stastny, I think in free agency the year before. Like it's a place where guys are going to want to go play, and I think they're going to be like the Yankees in a way. Like it's a place where it's probably great to live there, no state tax, that kind of thing, and then it's like look at their team now. Like there's already been talk about Taylor Hall signing there next offseason. This is like
part of me hates it, but part of me is okay with it because it's like if they keep losing, then it's just so much sweeter. They have a super team and they just lose to it'd be like the Rays with like a budget of like like 10 million. Yeah, like going up against like the South absolute top end. So, yeah, I'd love to see Vegas lose. It's always good. But I guess that's everything we wanted to go through. So, is there anything that you want to plug here before we sign off?
You know what? Shameless plug. You can check out Hawkey Talk with Ryan Hawk podcast I do have Twitter. Don't see my Twitter. I've got like no followers and I don't check it. You can message me on Instagram if you want. It's just Hawkey Talk podcast on Instagram. And thank you to you guys for having me on, man. Always enjoy chatting with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Been great to have you on, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. And that wraps things up for this time here on Clappercast. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to our show and spread around the good word of Clappercast. And also make sure you check out Ryan's show, Hawkey Talk with Ryan Hawk. For more content, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Clappercast Media or on Twitter at Clappercast. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.